Hey guys, this is the Reteach video for the Unit 3 test. So if you're watching this, that means you made a 70 or below on your Unit 3 test, and you're wanting to reteach so that you can retake it. So let's go ahead and look at question number 1. Question number 1 says, a savings account balance can be modeled by the graph of the linear function. What is the rate of change of the balance with respect to the number of deposits? So the rate of change, that's our slope, which is rise over run. So if we pick 2 points on this graph, start here to here, we go up, and our y-axis is counting by 50, so we go up 50, 100, and to the right 1. So our rise is $100 per deposit. So $100 per deposit is our correct answer. All right, let's take a look at number 2. So number 2 is asking us what is the zero of the linear function graphed below. Record our ants in the grid provided. So the zero of a function is going to be the x-intercept. So the x-intercept, this is where the line crosses the x-axis. So if we look at our graph, the line crosses the x-axis right here at 1, 0. So our zero of this function is going to be x equals 1. So in the griddable, we're going to put positive 1 as our answer. So positive 1 is the correct answer for number 2. Number 3, we're given a table that represents some points on a graph. What is the rate of change of y with respect to x for this function? So all this is asking us is what is the slope? What's the slope? And whenever we're given a table, we need to use stat edit. Stat edit. So we need to get out a calculator for this. When you get to your calculator, you're going to press the stat button. We're going to edit. And I want to enter in my x values into one column and y values into the other. So we have -2, 0, 3, and 7. Then we also have 12, 3, -10.5, and -28.5. Once you get all of those numbers entered in, you're going to press stat, go to calc. We want number 4, and you're going to press enter 5 times until it gives you an answer. Alright, give me just a second. I must have entered a number in wrong, so it didn't give me the correct answer. Right here, at 10.5, I should have entered in negative 10.5. So we're still going to do the same steps. Go to stat, calc, number 4, and press enter 5 times until we get an answer that looks similar to this. So we're looking for the slope, which is a, which is -4.5. So I'm going to put -4.5. But if we look at our answer choices, they're all given to us in fraction form. So I have to take this number and turn it into a fraction. So in your calculator, you'll type in -4.5, then math. We want to turn it into a fraction, so press enter 2 times. And we should get the answer of -9/2, which is B. Number 4, again, it's asking us for the slope of the line that passes through the 2 points, 26.7 and -39.12. So whenever we're given 2 points, we can again use stat edit. And I'm going to put these points into a table. That way I keep all of my x's in one column, y's in another. This helps keep me organized to where I don't mess up anything. Alright, so I have my numbers put into a table, and go back to my calculator, press Stat, Edit, and to clear out the column, you're going to highlight L1 or L2, press Clear, then Enter. And do the same thing for the other one. Now that it's cleared, we can put in the numbers, so we have 26 and negative 39, and then 7 and 12. Press Stat, Calc, number 4, enter 5 times. And we get a pretty ugly number. So what you're going to end up doing on your paper is you need to write down this number because we need to go back and re-enter it in to turn it into a fraction. So whenever you're writing this number down, negative 0.0769230769. If we notice on this number, it's following a pattern. First, 6 numbers after the decimal. And if I look right here, I'm missing 2 values. So we're missing 2 values at the end, which is 2, 3. Now that my pattern is complete, we can enter this number into the calculator and turn it into a fraction. So we have negative 0.076923 0.76923. Math, enter, enter. And we get negative 1/13. If we were to not finish this pattern, so just typing in a number like it was on the calculator, so 0.76923 0.769, and we did the same thing trying to turn it into a fraction, it would not turn it into a fraction because, again, the pattern was not complete. So, but for our final answer, we get negative 1/13. Number 5, so it says, the graph below shows the relationship between the number of gallons of fuel remaining in a truck and the number of hours the truck has been driven. What does the x-intercept represent? So if we look right here, the x-intercept is where the graph touches or crosses the x-axis. So down here at 20, 0. So our x-axis is representing hours, and the y values are all representing the number of gallons of gas in the truck. So if we've driven 20 hours, that's how long it's going to take for the gas to run out. So if we're looking at all of these answer choices, we're looking at, again, the number of hours driven. It would not be A because this is first looking at the number of gallons, which is not what we're looking for. So we can go ahead and mark off A and C based on that. Now we have to determine whether B or D is the correct answer. So D is the number of hours required to use 1 gallon of fuel, which is not correct because we started out with 200 gallons of gas. So a gallon of gas would be used in a number of minutes, not hours. So it cannot be B. Now, for B, the number of hours the truck was driven before running out of fuel is the correct answer. So we had to drive 20 hours before running out of fuel. Number 6 is asking us to determine the slope of the line represented by the equation, record our answer, and the grid provided. So slope is represented by the variable n. And if I was to compare this equation to one of those on the star formula sheets, the equation is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And if we notice here, m comes before the parentheses. So m is coming before the parentheses. And if I'm looking for m in the equation, the number that comes before the parentheses is 2. So my slope is 2. So therefore, in the griddable, I will record a positive 2. That's all we had to do for that one. Number 7. So we're given a table that represents some points on a graph. Which function represents the same relationship? So I'm looking for a function that, when given these points, it fits. So if you're given a table, again, it's that header. And if I look at this table, I see that the table's been rotated sideways to where my x's are on top, y's are on bottom. If it helps you, you can rewrite the table like you're used to seeing. So x's on the left, y's on the right. And I'm just going to copy down my values. And then I'll plug it into my calculator. Alright, so now that I have that, I'm going to plug it into my calculator. Go to Stat, Edit. I'm going to clear out my columns. So again, it's clear, enter. And I'm going to type in my x's and then my y's. Alright, now I'll type in my y values, 12, 0, 12, 0, -7.5. Stat, calc, number 4, enter 5 times. And we should have a function that looks like my slope should be -3 and my y-intercept should be -10.5. So if I was to plug that in, we would get -3x minus 10.5, which is an A. Number 8. So we have the total cost in dollars to buy a calculator set for the students in Mr. Ingles' math class can be found using the function C equals 79.95s plus 12.25, where S is the number of calculators purchased. If there are at least 27 students, but not more than 31, in Mr. Ingles' math class, what is the range of the function for this situation? So first off, I'm going to rewrite this equation. We have C equals 79.95s plus 12.25. And if I'm looking to compare this equation to one that's on the STAR formula sheet, it is similar to y equals mx plus b. We just have different variables. So I'm going to rewrite it to look like what we're used to seeing. So I'm replacing the c with y and the s with x. So I'm going to be comparing the blue equation to find my answer. Now, this last question is wanting us to find the range. Well, range I know is y. I know range is my y values. So y in our equation is the total cost for the calculators purchased. So I know that I'm going to be dealing with larger numbers. So I can automatically get rid of f and h. Because I want the big numbers. I want the total cost. Now, when it comes to determining if it's a continuous function, so this is continuous, or discrete, we need to think of one thing. Can we purchase parts of calculators. So can I purchase a part of a calculator for a student? Well, that answer would be no. So that means I can't have all of these values in between 0 and $2,366.70. I can't have all of those values. I need separate whole numbers because I need to purchase calculators for 27 to 31 students. So, based on that, my answer would be J. Because I need to purchase a certain amount of calculators, and I can't purchase parts of those calculators. All right, number 9. So number 9, your teacher probably told you that we crossed this out because none of the answers matched the equation given. The correct answer should have been B. So this should have been B, and your teacher might have told you that if you do this problem, tell me what's wrong, we'll give it to you as extra credit. So if I look at this equation, 2x minus y equals 5, I'm going to go ahead and solve it for y. I'm going to go ahead and solve it for y. When we do this, we have to subtract 2x first. Because if I'm trying to get y by itself, I've got to move that term. So we get negative y equals negative 2x plus 5. Because my ultimate goal is to try and get this equation to look like y equals mx plus b. So we're almost there, but my y is negative. So I have to divide everything by a -1 in order to make y positive. When we do this, we get positive y equals positive 2x minus 5. Okay, so if I'm trying to figure out which graph matches, I need to take out my slope and my y-intercept. This just is to help us figure out which graph needs to match. So my slope that we solved for is 2, and my y-intercept is -5. So automatically, based on my slope, which is positive, I can get rid of D and A. All right, and if you look at C, if we look at C, our y-intercept is at -3. So it can't be C either. So now we need to figure out what is wrong with our equation and how can we fix it to make it look like option B. So if we look at this one, our y-intercept for B is a positive 5. So the only thing I really need to change in this equation is my y-intercept. So in order to change our y-intercept, I would need to change it to a positive 5. So B should be positive 5, not negative, which means in the original equation, right here, we have to flip the sign. So to get the correct answer, our equation should have been written as 2x minus y equals -5 in order for B to be the correct answer. Now, number 10, it's asking us which equation in standard form has a graph that passes through the point -4, 2, and has a slope of 9/2. So I'm trying to go to standard form. So our ultimate goal is to get to standard. So this is my goal. But they give us a point and a slope. So automatically, we have to go with point slope form. All right, let's go ahead and put this into point slope form and try and figure out what's going on. So when we plug this in, We're plugging this into the equation. We get y minus 2 equals 9 halves times x plus 4. Because whenever you plug this point into the equation, you have to flip the signs of your point. So whenever you plug in the point, flip the signs of just the point. Now I'm going to do the only thing I know how to do, which is solve for y. So I distribute my 9 halves. We get 9 halves x plus 18. Because 9 halves times 4 gives us 18. You can use your calculator to figure that out. And then we bring down the y minus 2 equals. The last thing I know how to do is to get y by itself. So I'm going to add 2 to both sides. Cancels out on the left side, and we're left with y equals 9 halves x plus 20. So if we look at this equation right here, it is in slope-intercept form. Slope-intercept form, now we have to take it to standard form. So now we have to take this to standard form. And the way we do that is, so slope-intercept form is in y equals mx plus b. And I want it to look like ax plus by equals c. So if we look at those two equations, in standard form, x and y need to be on the same side. So in order to do that, you have to take our 9 halves and subtract it on both sides. So I'm going to subtract 9 halves x from both sides. And we get negative 9 halves x plus 1y equals 20. Now there's one or two stipulations when it comes to standard form. In standard form, x can't be negative or a fraction. So that means I need to multiply by its negative denominator, so the negative denominator to get rid of this. So negative denominator. Well, negative, and our denominator is 2. So we have to multiply the entire equation by negative 2 to get the equation to look like what we want it to. So what we do, multiply, we distribute that negative 2 to everything. Negative 2 times negative 9 halves x gives us positive 9x. Negative 2 times positive y is negative 2y. Negative 2 times 20 is negative 40. Which is our final answer. So, letter choice H is the correct answer. Now, number 11. It says the graph of a linear function is shown below. Which equation is best represented by this graph? So I'm looking for an equation in point-slope form, because this is point-slope. Point-slope. So y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So I need to figure out, first off, my slope and my point. So looking at this graph, I'm just going to choose 2 points, my y-intercept and this point right here. So my y-intercept is 0, 5. This point is going to be 2, negative 1. We have to go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we went down 6 and to the right 1, 2. So So that means my slope is -3. Now, when it comes to picking out a point that would best fit this graph, so a point that would best fit this graph, I'm just going to look and see what numbers are in these equations. So whenever you're taking a point out of the equation, you have to flip the sign. So this first one is 4, -7. B is -2, -1. C is -2, 4. And the last one is -1, -2. And we're going to look and see which of these points is on the line. So which of these points is on the line? So for the -1, -2, so -1, -2, well, that's not on the line, so it can't be D. -2, 4 is not on the line either, so that can't be it. -2, -1, so -2, -1. Well, that's not on the line either. So if I'm looking for 4, -7, this one is on my line. So A would be the correct answer choice. Number 12, it says a theme park collected $900 as an entry fee for 150 visitors on Friday. The amount collected in entry fees by the theme park varies directly with the number of visitors on that day. If the number of visitors on Saturday is 203, how much money can the park expect to collect? So if I see varies directly, I know that I have to set up a proportion to figure this out. So I'm going to be using WKU, which is just a proportion table to help me organize my information that was given. So W is words, K is known, U is unknown. And I'm going to fill this out. So it says the theme park collected money. So money is going to be my first word. Based on the number of visitors that day. So we had $900 and 150 visitors on Friday. On Saturday, it tells me that we had 203 visitors. How much money was made? So I have my proportion set up. Now what we have to do is cross multiply. So I'm going to cross multiply. We get 150y. And then 900 times 203. 900 times 203. That is going to be $182,700. Now what we do is solve for y. So all we have to do is divide by 150 on both sides. We get y equals $1,218, which is letter H. All right, number 13 says Brianna has a monthly college budget of X dollars. So she's starting off the month with X amount of dollars. And every month, $1,050 is spent. So if she's spending money, she's subtracting $1,050 just on rent. Now, 1/3 of Brianna's remaining budget is spent on tuition. So if 1/3 is spent on tuition, I'm going to multiply it by 1/3. Then we are just going to distribute. So we're going to distribute. and I get x over a third minus 1050 over a third. Well, since they both have the same denominator, I can just combine the two. We get x minus 1050 over 3. Now, this was your bonus question, so if you got it wrong, it didn't count against you. So, letter choice D would have been the correct answer. Number 14, it says a student rode a bike from school to a recreation center. The graph shows the student's distance in miles from the recreation center after riding the bike for X amount of minutes. What is the domain of the function? So domain is our X values. So we're looking at the left and right sides of our box. So the left side of my box starts here at 0, and it ends over here at 28. So I'm looking for a situation or a domain that contains both 0 and 28. If we look at letter choice F, it says all real numbers greater than or equal to 0. So I want all the numbers greater than 0. And then I want all of the numbers that are less than or equal to 28. So I want all the numbers in between those two values. So F would be the correct answer. The reason it is not H, so the reason it's not H, is because that's stating all real numbers less than or equal to 28. So that's telling me that I want all the numbers less than or equal to 28. Well, this graph does not contain an arrow, so I can't include all of the numbers that are negative. So we can't include all the numbers that are negative because technically we can't go back in time. So because we can't go back in time, we can't include H as an answer. So H would not be the correct answer. 15. So it says the function y equals 375 plus 1.5 times x minus 1 can be used to determine the cost in dollars for a taxi ride of x miles. So depending on how far you go in the taxi, that's how much you're going to get charged. So it's asking us what is the rate of change of the cost in dollars with respect to the number of miles. So it's wanting the slope. So in question number 6, I have mentioned that slope, which is m, comes before the parentheses. So if slope comes before the parentheses, based on this equation, my slope would be 1.5, which is a. So if you've got an equation that has parentheses in it, your slope is in front of it. So slope is always in front of parentheses, given these types of equations. All right, 16. The distance a truck travels varies directly with the number of hours driven. A truck travels 268 miles in 4 hours. If the truck continues to travel at the same rate, how long will it take the truck to go 938 miles? So again, I see varies directly. I'm going to set up a proportion. Again, I'm going to use the WKU table. So the word that comes before or at the beginning of the sentence will go up top. So the distance varies directly with the number of hours driven. So a truck can travel 268 miles in 4 hours. And then it's wanting to know how many hours it takes to go 938 miles. So we're going to cross multiply again. We have 268x equals 4 times 938. We get 3,752. And to finally solve this question, I'm going to divide both sides by 268. And we get x equals 14. So it would take 14 hours to go 938 miles. So that concludes the end of this reteach video. If you get a 70% or higher on this reteach video, let your teacher know. That way she can schedule you for a retest. If you scored below 70%, please let your teacher know so she can reset your video.